A baby naming or a bris, bar or bat mitzvah, wedding, shiva, all the important Jewish life cycle moments are rich with ritual and ceremony. The fullness of each one accompanied by something not liturgical or specifically religious, but for many just as important, a meal. Food that we eat together helps us celebrate and helps to comfort us. For many of us, okay, let's be honest, for most of us, it feels inseparable to have a significant Jewish moment with a meal. And in the eyes of many, these meals mean traditional Jewish foods. This Shabbat's Torah portion seems to tell the story of what many would imagine to be the first ordination service. And it's no different than other important Jewish life cycle moments. Parshat Shmini gets its name from the opening verse of the portion. Leviticus 9:1 says, Vayehi bayom hashmini, on the 8th day, Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel, summoning them to perform the sacrifices that they had been trained to do. The next section goes on to tell how Aaron and his sons are ritually consecrated and prepared to do holy work. At the conclusion of the portion is a thorough detailing of those animals that were permitted to eat and those forbidden, what we know now as the laws of kashrut. The order of the day was that the priests were consecrated, they led rituals for the first time, then the menu was created and celebrated. Each of these sections of text is significant in content and importance and could well stand on its own. The establishment of the priestly leadership as recognized by the people to lead the ritualistic components of life for the community is essential to a system that lives in a state of what we call commandedness. If God is the commander and we are commanded to act in a certain way, as God gives the system of sacrifices, without the practitioners of those offerings, the mitzvot would be impossible to fulfill. Similarly, the laws of kashrut, of keeping kosher, they function as a structure for the community in regards to the food that sustained them and outline what they could and couldn't eat. While seemingly separate and individual, these themes become clustered together because of the organization of these chapters and verses in the same portion. And for a few minutes, I want to explore what I see as a powerful thematic link between them. The link is holiness, and how making distinctions enables us to find more moments of holiness in our lives. The intricate process by which Aaron and his sons become priests creates both the separation that they and their community members need in order to see and elevate these new ritual leaders into their leadership roles. Inherent in that role is the very ability to make distinctions, to discern the difference between valid and invalid offerings. The case for the biblical text on kashrut is even more obvious. The people are told which animals they can eat, which they cannot, and how to distinguish based on physical differences between them. The last line of this week's portion, we are told, these instructions are for distinguishing between pure and impure, between living things that may be eaten and the living things that may not be eaten. Rabbi Joel Osram beautifully captures this idea when he writes, our essential duty in life, the test of humanity, is to distinguish between categories and properties in life. The Hebrew is lahavdil, to make distinctions between right and wrong, good and evil, clean and unclean, pure and impure, ultimately between holy and unholy. To lead a Jewish life means to live a life that seeks to create moments of holiness. I realize I am preaching to the choir when I look out and tell you who are sitting here and those who are streaming online to create moments of holiness by ways of distinguishing Shabbat from the rest of the week. You're here. You're doing that. Together, we are engaging in something different. I imagine that we do so in hopes of feeling something different, that you come here seeking something different than is around you all the time or every day. I'm reminded of the story about the wealthy king who attended the community festival and ate with the commoners just once a year. He so enjoyed the meal, and especially the bread, that he returned to the palace and instructed the cook to find a new baker, the best baker in the land, someone capable of making the bread that he enjoyed while feasting with the peasants and paupers he ruled. The first baker arrived and displayed an impressive list of credentials and trading certificates and promised to make the best bread in the land. He set out for the kingdom's well-equipped bakery and worked tirelessly. He called for the finest ingredients and attempted loaf after loaf until producing what he said was the best loaf of bread he ever made. When called upon by the king, the talented baker presented his prized creation and offered it to the king with tremendous pride. The king retreated to his dining room, and as he did each night, sat at the head of the long, empty table, eager to cut off a slice of the freshly made bread. As he sliced, the tantalizing aroma intensified, and he took a bit into the soft, sweet bread and tasted it. And he was deeply disappointed. It was good, tasty, but fell quite short of the delectable loaf he had shared with the villagers. He commanded that other bakers be found, the best of the best, he demanded. And baker after baker, from near and far, as he sat at the head of his table and sliced the warm loaf, each time the loaf missed the mark. That is, until the king's attendant found the peasant baker who created the original loaf. The king summoned the woman and ordered her to bake bread for him in the kingdom. Nervous and afraid, the woman did as she was told, and to the king's dismay, the loaf still didn't taste the same. The king insisted that she forgot an ingredient or baked it too long or the oven wasn't working. The woman assured him that wasn't the case and invited the king to join her family for dinner, where she served the bread each night. Reluctantly, the king agreed and journeyed to the village. Now, you can imagine, this wasn't the most comfortable situation for anyone. But the woman's family understood that when the king wants something, the king gets what they want. They gave the king the best piece of meat, the most comfortable chair, the first slice of bread, and with the bread fresh out of the oven, the king took his first bite. Lo and behold, it was the bread he had been searching for. When the meal was over, the woman sent the king home with leftover bread to enjoy the next day. And that's when he figured it out. You see, when he sat at the head of the table and sliced off that piece of bread, it didn't taste the same. The same loaf, it didn't make sense. Until the king's attendant said, "Perhaps you cannot taste it here, all alone, like you do every day. Maybe it only tastes good because it's eaten in a special way with others." Living a Jewish life is about elevating everyday experiences into moments of holiness, creating distinction between the regular and the holy to add more sweetness and meaning and feeling to our lives. Each of you being here tonight, when we gather for Shabbat, helps to elevate the regular to the holy. Shabbat Shalom.